Hi, I'm Dr. John Douillard and welcome to LifeSpa.com. And today I want to talk about 10 Ayurvedic hacks for bad breath, something that affects 65 million Americans. Now this bad breath is nothing more than a symptom of an oral hygiene issue where irritated gum tissue allow opportunistic bacteria to proliferate and irritate the gums even further and produce waste products called volatile sulfur compounds, or VSCs, that are responsible for the actual bad breath. But the bad breath is an indicator of something more serious, because these bad bacteria can also infiltrate through your gums into your blood, into your heart, your arteries, and even into your brain, and cause some real serious issues. So treating bad breath, understanding how to get to the underlying cause of it, is really important. Now in Western medicine, they say 87% of the cause of bad breath is just inside your mouth, where Ayurveda says, the cause of what's going on inside your mouth comes from underneath, from an upstream cause, most commonly your digestion and even some deficiencies, what I want to talk about. So I want to dive deep into this whole idea of bad breath because it's such an important indicator of real important preventative health. So the first one is called Udvarta. Udvarta in Ayurveda means upward moving digestion, which means the digestion is actually going up instead of down. And that can manifest as heartburn or reflux or indigestion or burping or belching. Those kind of things are when the digestion is going up. And when that happens, the gas can vent through the lower esophageal sphincter into the esophagus and actually come into the mouth and cause bad breath and alter the environment of the mouth, where opportunistic bacteria are more likely to proliferate. So it's really important to understand that there's this direct relationship between heartburn, or what Ayurveda calls Udvarta, what Western medicine calls gastroparesis, where the food is lingering in your stomach longer than it should, and that allows opportunistic bacteria and fermentation and putrefaction to take place inside of your stomach, and that creates a gas that can vent up through the mouth and cause heartburn, and there's good science behind that. So one of the techniques to kind of reverse the Udvarta is to really strengthen the coordination of your stomach making the right amount of acid and the liver making the right amount of bile. And bile is a natural buffer for that acid. So if you're not making enough bile because your liver is congested, your stomach will hold on to the acid initially, waiting for the liver to make the bile. And if the bile just never gets produced, the gas and putrefaction will take place, and the gas and will vent up into the mouth and change the environment and causes problems. And there's good science behind that. So my favorite treatment for that is called a form that we have called Gentle Digest, which is just ginger, cumin, coriander, fennel, and cardamom. And all of those have been studied to actually amp up the strength and the coordinated effort of your stomach making the right amount of acid, liver making the right amount of bile, and the pancreatic and duodenal enzymes that coordinate to make sure the digestion is strong so it can go down effectively. The bile flow in particular forces the downward moving energy, so we go to the bathroom better and eliminate better, and not let the gases go up, but have them go directed down, which is where they come. The second cause of bad breath is bad elimination or constipation, and that's all part of the Udvarta. Instead of the elimination going down, it goes up. And there's good studies that show that constipation can be linked to really foul breath, which is really interesting. In fact, in one study published in the Journal of Evidence-Based Complementary Medicine, they had 60 volunteers who took triphala, an herb that Ayurveda recommends for constipation and elimination, along with an herb called cardamom, and cardamom is really for gas and for bloating. And they took those two herbs together for 21 days. One group did, and the other group took a classic over-the-counter mouthwash. And they measured the results on bad breath, and they found that the group that took the triphala with the cardamom saw a 56% reduction in plaque. The mouthwash group saw a 60% reduction in plaque, so they're very, very similar. They looked at gum health, and the people who took the triphala and the cardamom had a 69% reduction in issues with gum health, and the mouthwash only a 68% reduction. And with bad breath, the actual measure of bad breath, they saw a 66% reduction of bad breath with the triphala and the cardamom, and a 72% reduction in bad breath with the mouthwash. And it's really interesting because the mouthwash is working right on your mouth. You would expect it to actually have an effect on your breath. But triphala works on your lower intestine tract. So it's like the sewer, if you will. And if that's, foul and putrefactive, then you're going to have a lot of gases venting back up, which is sort of a really interesting phenomenon. Now, one of the things that happens when you have both Udvarta affecting the upper digestion and the lower digestion, you have something that Ayurveda calls ama. Ama is most classically measured by coating on your tongue. It's undigested food that builds up on your tongue. A lot of times you see a white or a coated tongue first thing in the morning. And we in Ayurveda would call that a lot of ama, or undigested food that's backflowing up into your mouth. And you see that in your mouth, therefore is, got a lot of bad breath, and you really need to scrape your tongue and do things to clean that out. Well, in a 2013 study with 268 dental students, they actually created a link. They saw a direct association between coating of the tongue and bad breath. And in 2019, they did another study, and they actually saw that there was a direct link between not only the coating of your tongue and the bad breath, but the volatile sulfur compounds. So there's a direct link between ama on your tongue, which is the classic Ayurvedic measure of ama, which means indigestion, which means that the Udvarta in the upper digestion and the Udvarta, the constipation in the lower digestion, are really critical pieces of the puzzle, and ama being sort of a manifestation of those first two imbalances that I talked about. In the article associated with the video, I give you links to an ama reducing diet and how you can actually reduce the ama out of your digestion and strengthen your digestion on your own. So I highly recommend that you sort of go there for that. I also have written an ebook called Question Your Digestion, which is a troubleshooting guide to fix any digestive underlying imbalances. We also have another ebook which is free called the Short Home Cleanse ebook, which is a 4-day Ayurvedic detox to get everything to go down and detox out of your intestinal tract, all of which are really important from the Ayurvedic perspective to treat the underlying factors for bad breath. And of course, we have our Colorado cleanse, which is our 2-week Ayurvedic digestive reset, lymph cleanse, liver cleanse, and detox. So that's a much bigger commitment, but really, really powerful. And that's called the Colorado cleanse. And you get all that at LifeSpa.com, and you can look at the article associated with this video, and it gives you links to all of that. Now, another thing that's kind of really common is a deficiency of zinc. And zinc affects 1/4, zinc deficiencies affect 1/4 of the world's population. So it's a lot of people have zinc deficiencies. And zinc deficiencies have been associated with a host of oral health concerns, including gum issues, plaque issues, and definitely linked to bad breath. Studies have shown that when you take zinc as a supplement, it directly lowers the volatile sulfur compounds, and it supports the health of the oral cavity. So the whole environment changes dramatically. So one of the things you just could be not getting in your diet is enough zinc in your diet. Now, they did studies with zinc lozenges, which worked really well to mitigate bad breath. They did studies with zinc toothpaste, which worked really well for bad breath because you're just getting the zinc locally. And they've also done studies with zinc foods that are high in zinc, which are also really important as well. And of those foods, and I got a whole list in the article at lifespa.com on bad breath, but the number one highest content zinc food is far and away, nothing comes close, is oysters. And then after that, you have pumpkins. Pumpkin seeds are really high in zinc. I think we all sort of know that. And then black rice and black sesame are really high. And then you go from beef to crab to cashews to beans and sunflower seeds. And those are the top ones that give you the most zinc in your diet. And if you don't like eating those foods, then you can take a supplement. We have something called essential minerals. I'm a big fan of taking all the minerals together. I'm not a huge fan of vitamin supplements, like a multivitamin supplement, because the vitamins aren't deficient. The oranges aren't deficient in vitamin C, but the soil is deficient in minerals. So we oftentimes run out of a lot of these really important minerals like zinc. And in the essential minerals, you get 15 milligrams of zinc in a really highly absorbable form from a company called Albion, which is the highest absorption company that makes the minerals with the highest absorption on the market. And they're really the only ones that publish their absorption rates because everybody else is really so low. So it's really the the gold standard of minerals is this company called Albion, and most of the really reputable mineral companies will use Albion as their mineral source. The next cause of bad breath is breathing and not having good diaphragmatic function. I wrote an article not too long ago called "Breathe Away Your Heartburn." And it was an article based on a breathing technique that's used in hospitals around the world called inspiratory muscle training. Techniques that strengthen the muscles of inspiration, which is your diaphragm. So it turns out that if you strengthen your diaphragm with deep breathing techniques, very specific ones, it actually reverses GERD, heartburn, and reflux in about 10 or 15 different studies. It's well documented and well supported by the science. You go to the doctor with heartburn, they don't give you a breathing technique, they give you Prilosec or something, right, or Omeprazole. So it's really important to understand that the relationship for the diaphragm and the stomach are so intimate that the stomach can get pushed up against the diaphragm and reflux or bring the gases through the lower esophageal sphincter into the esophagus, into the mouth, which not only causes bad breath from the gases, but also alters the environment, opportunistic bacteria that produce the volatile sulfur compounds that cause the bad breath. So this breathing technique in Ayurveda is called pratiloma. And it's a very specific breathing technique, and I link to that breathing technique in the article where you actually learn how to use a breathing technique where you pinch your nostrils about 80% and you take a maximal breath in where you really contract your diaphragm and then open up your nostrils and let it out. So it's a breathing in and out. And you do 10, 20, or 30 of those in a sitting to really get that diaphragm to strengthen. That frees up the relation between the diaphragm and the stomach, strengthens the lower esophageal sphincter, puts a better bond or barrier between your stomach and the esophagus so those gases don't vent up into your mouth and cause bad breath. Another thing that is really important, and we're on the 6th one now, there's a few more left, but I think they're all important because they've all been studied to reverse bad breath, is breathing through your mouth at nighttime. You know, studies have shown that when you actually open up your mouth, again, your mouth gets dry, opportunistic bacteria proliferate, and then those bacteria have waste products called volatile sulfur compounds that cause bad breath, right? So if you close your mouth, sort of crazy things happen. You breathe through your nose at night, which I've got an article on something, I have a link in the article at LifeSpa.com on the 10 hacks to Ayurvedic hacks for bad breath. But I have a link to another article that's, I think it's like 20 scientific reasons why we should breathe through our nose at night. And that's because when you close your mouth, the environment doesn't dry out. And when you dry out your mouth when you're sleeping, that's when the opportunistic bacteria can begin to proliferate and irritate the gums and create pockets and cause plaque, and all this begins to happen. I had a patient of mine who told me that he had, every time he went to the dentist for his entire life, he had gum issues and cavities. And I talked to him about doing nose breathing while he was sleeping by taping his mouth closed with a little bit of a tape right here before he went to bed and sleep with his mouth closed. And he did that. And 6 months later, a year later, when he went back to the dentist, he said it was literally the first time in his life he went to the dentist, so there was no cavities and there was no gum issues. And it was just mind-boggling to him. And I've seen this happen again and again and again. So we were supposed to be trained as young children to breathe through our nose. In India, they tuck kids' heads, they close their mouth, and they train them to be nose breathers. There's really good science on the Native American culture when they would always train their kids to be nose breathers, and because that has a whole lot to do with opening the airways and facial development and and brain function and brain respiration. It's all really important. So one thing, if you are a snorer or you have your mouth open, you wake up with a dry mouth, put a piece of tape. I use a micropore made by 3M, micropore tape for sensitive skin. I get it in the grocery store, take a little piece and put it right there, just here. Still have some room on the side of my mouth if I wanted to talk, or my wife or whatever, I can still talk, but I have the tape there, and that just encourages my mouth to stay closed at night. So check out that article on taping your mouth closed at night on my website. Really, really important. Another sort of more classical Ayurvedic treatment for treating the actual issue inside of your mouth is called oral oil pulling, or what Ayurveda calls gandusha. And oil pulling is when you take a sesame oil. Classically, it was sesame oil with coconut oil mixed with turmeric and a little bit of peppermint oil in, and you put it in your mouth and you swish it for 10 to 15 minutes. And when you swish the oils, it saponifies, which means it turns into a soap. And when you swish coconut oil, it turns into not only a soap, but an antiseptic. And it's been shown to be powerfully antiseptic. So that's where, when you pre-digest it by mixing it with your saliva, you turn these oils into something different. And it's been shown to do really effective things like reduce plaque, to reduce the volatile sulfur compounds, to absolutely reduce bad breath. So it's been really, really effective as a tool. Also supports just good oral health and really good oral hygiene because the sesame oil is loaded with vitamins E and calcium, which are all so important for our tissues and our skin and our gum health. So the oil pulling, something you can do in the shower, where you actually just take that oil, put a little bit in your mouth, and you just swish it around for about 10 minutes while you're in the shower, and then you can spit it out when you're done. And it's a powerful treatment for treating your gum and even your teeth white. It has even teeth whitening properties as well, which is really important. The other sort of more classic Ayurvedic technique is scraping your tongue. Classically with a copper tongue scraper, because it's the only documented antiseptic metal. So whenever you have a tongue scraper that's copper, it's number one, when you pick it up off your bathroom counter, it's not going to be full of bacteria because it's antiseptic. And you're also putting something antiseptic on your tongue, which is really, really important. And that's something you do every morning. In Ayurveda, it's considered the very first activity of the day. You wake up, you walk in the bathroom, and you scrape your tongue. And you get that ama off your tongue. But it also stimulates the digestive process, that downward moving energy of digestion. And you follow that with a big glass of water, which is also really important. So studies have shown that scraping your tongue will actually reduce bad or opportunistic mouth bacteria. It'll reduce volatile sulfur compounds and therefore reduce bad breath. It increases the sense of taste, so it makes your taste sensation even more effective, more efficient. And it also literally has been shown to change the environment of the mouth to support the good, healthy bacteria, which is really, really important. And then the last one, well, the second to last one, is dehydration. Dehydration has been shown where people just don't drink enough water. It's directly linked to bad breath and, again, volatile sulfur compounds and, again, opportunistic bacteria. You change the environment in your mouth by drying it out. While you're sleeping or by not drinking, you're going to change the environment. You're going to get the bad opportunistic bacteria, one of which is called Streptococcus mutans, that produces the bad bacteria and the irritation of the gum, and that's the same bacteria that infiltrates into your bloodstream that causes heart disease, and about 63% of the people who have cardiovascular disease, which means plaque in their arteries, is caused by that same bacteria that causes the plaque on your teeth, called Streptococcus mutans, and it's also been recently shown to cause the plaque in your brain that has to do with dementia. So really, really important that we deal with this. So hydration is a real important issue. And then finally, some rinses that you can do in the morning, starting your day with a big glass of warm water, maybe with a little lemon is one thing that you can do. You can also take salt and do a salt water rinse where you just take about a half a teaspoon of salt in about 8 ounces of warm water, and you can drink and swish and gargle with that and spit it out. You can do a similar rinse with, which is really good for helping healing the gum tissue, which is really important. Apple cider vinegar is another rinse you can do, which is very antiseptic, and again, it's very astringent, so it really helps to support the health of the gum tissue as well. And you can put 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar in about 8 ounces of water, warm water, and do the same sort of gargle and rinse and spit with the apple cider vinegar. And if you have some other issues, you can even use tea tree oil, 5 drops of tea tree at 8 ounces of warm water, and you can rinse with that. And again, that tea tree is extremely antiseptic, and it supports the fight against any opportunistic bacteria that might proliferate. So a lot there, all about bad breath, but I talk about it not so much because bad breath is not wonderful to smell, but more importantly, because of its impact on oral hygiene and that impact on your health. Particularly, we know for sure heart, cardiovascular, arterial health, as well as brain health and cognitive function. All right, so check out this article at LifeSpa.com called The 10 Ayurvedic Hacks for Bad Breath, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard. Do you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe and share.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at LifeSpa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.